My parents stole $80,000 from my college fund to bail out my loser brother's failed startup. Years later, I found proof and nuked their lives. I never thought a dusty box of old paperwork would change everything. But there it was, staring me in the face like a slap. My college trust fund, the one grandma set up for me, drained to zero just weeks after I graduated high school. The dates matched up perfectly with the summer my brother Jake suddenly had investors for his stupid app idea. My hands shook as I flipped through the bank statements. $80,000 gone. And my parents had the nerve to tell me we couldn't afford a 4-year university. They made me take out loans for community college while Jake bragged about being self-made. I should have known. The family reunion was the worst possible place to bring it up, which is exactly why I did it. Aunt Linda was already halfway through her third wine cooler when she smirked at me. Emily, you always were the dramatic one. Your poor parents. That was it. I reached into my bag and slapped the papers onto the picnic table. Yeah, poor them. Stealing from their own kid must have been so hard. Silence. Then chaos. My mom's face went white. Emily, that's not. Not what? Not true. I shoved the statement toward my uncle. Look at the dates. Look at the withdrawals. You took every penny and lied to me. My dad's jaw clenched. We needed to support your brother's future. Jake scoffed. Oh, here we go. Always playing the victim. I laughed. I actually laughed because the audacity was almost impressive. You blew my money on your failed startup. And I'm a problem? My mom started crying, the way she always does when she's cornered. You don't understand the pressure we were under. I understand that you stole from me, I said, my voice steady now. And I understand that you've spent years making me feel like I was asking for too much, when really, you just gave everything to him. The cousins were staring. The aunts looked horrified. And my dad? He just crossed his arms and said, You're being selfish. Family helps family. That was the moment I knew I was done. I pulled my car keys from my pocket and dropped them on the table. Then consider this me unhelping you. I turned and walked away, their shouts fading behind me. Let them explain. Let them squirm. I was done being the quiet one. The silence after the reunion was louder than any screaming match could have been. I sat in my apartment, staring at my phone like it might explode at any moment. Part of me expected the barrage of angry texts, the guilt trips, the frantic calls demanding I stop causing drama. But nothing came, just silence. At first, I thought they were giving me space to cool off. That was their usual tactic, let me simmer down until I started questioning whether I'd overreacted. But by day 3, I realized this was different. They weren't giving me space. They were pretending nothing had happened. That's when the anger really set in. I tore through my files, digging up every financial document I could find. Old bank statements, emails from the financial aid office, even the handwritten notes from when my high school counselor had explained my college options. The trust fund paperwork was damning enough, but I needed more. I needed to see the full picture of how they'd screwed me over. Then the messages started trickling in. Not from my parents. Oh no, they were still playing the silent treatment game, but from the extended family. Emily, honey, your mom's really upset. Maybe you two should talk. Aunt Linda, the family peacekeeper. Jake said you took things out of context. You know how emotional you can get. Cousin Megan, who'd always been Team Jake. Family is everything. Don't throw that away over money. Uncle Greg, who'd conveniently forgotten about the time he sued his own brother over an inheritance. I didn't respond to any of them. Instead, I started compiling a list. Every time they'd chosen Jake over me. Every sacrifice I'd made that they'd taken for granted. Every lie they'd told to cover their tracks. Then I got creative. I found Jake's latest LinkedIn post, some bullshit inspirational quote about hustle and sacrifice with a humble brag about his new consulting business. The comments were full of ass-kissing from his wannabe entrepreneur friends. And right there at the top was a comment from Sarah Chun, a partner at a venture capital firm that specialized in funding women-led startups. Oh, the irony. I created a new email account, just a simple Gmail with no identifying details. Then I drafted the most professional, devastating email of my life. Subject: Due diligence on Jake Reynolds. Dear Ms. Chun, I noticed your recent interest in Jake Reynolds' new venture. Before proceeding with any investment discussions, you might want to review the attached documents regarding the source of his initial startup capital. Best regards, a concerned observer. I attached the trust fund paperwork, along with a timeline showing exactly when the money had been withdrawn and when Jake's first business had launched. Then I hit send. The fallout was even better than I'd imagined. First, Sarah's comment disappeared from Jake's post. Then the entire post vanished. By the next morning, Jake's entire LinkedIn profile had been wiped clean. That's when my phone finally rang. I let go to voicemail. Emily, this has gone too far. My dad's voice was tight with barely controlled anger. Jake's investor just pulled out. Do you have any idea what you've done? Call me. Now. I laughed so hard I nearly dropped my phone. Too far. They stole $80,000 from me. They lied to me for years. They made me take out student loans while Jake played Silicon Valley Wunderkind with my future. And now they were mad because I fought back? I blocked his number. Then I made myself a cup of coffee and started planning my next move. Because if they thought this was me going too far, they were in for a very rude awakening. The best part? This was just the opening act. I pulled up Jake's Instagram. He just posted some vague, sad boy quote about betrayal. I screenshotted it and sent it to my cousin with a caption. Funny how it's only betrayal when it happens to him. Then I sat back and watched the dominoes start to fall. The fallout from my little LinkedIn stunt spread faster than I expected. By the end of the week, the entire family knew Jake's investor had dropped him, and suddenly everyone had an opinion. My phone buzzed constantly, not with apologies, of course, but with outrage. How could you do this to your own brother? Aunt Linda, who apparently missed the part where they stole from me first. You're tearing this family apart. Cousin Mark, like the family, wasn't already fractured the moment they decided Jake mattered more. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. The truth was doing all the work for me. Then came the real surprise. My cousin Rachel, the one who'd always been shoved to the sidelines like me, sent me a message. Jake's been borrowing money from Grandma. A lot of money. Thought you should know. Attached were screenshots of Venmo transactions, loan agreements, even a second mortgage on Grandma's house. All to fund Jake's next big idea. The dates lined up perfectly with the months after his first business failed. I should have been shocked, but honestly, I was just relieved to have proof that I wasn't the crazy one. The next family gathering was a barbecue at Uncle Greg's. I wasn't invited, but Rachel texted me updates in real time. Jake showed up late, looking like he hadn't slept in days. Mom keeps making excuses for him. Dad's drinking more than usual. Then, the golden moment, Jake just blew up at Grandma for meddling in his business. She started crying. Everyone's uncomfortable. I wish I could have seen it in person. That night, my dad called. Again, this time I answered. Happy now, he spat. You've turned everyone against Jake. I laughed. I didn't do anything. Jake did this to himself. You all did. Silence. Then, quieter. Your mother misses you. That one almost got me. Almost. Funny, I said. She didn't miss me when she was signing away my future. I hung up before he could respond. The next morning, Rachel sent me a new screenshot, a group text between the cousins. Jake was begging for loans, promising he'd pay everyone back double. No one replied. I smiled, closed my laptop, and got ready for work. The best revenge wasn't even what I'd done. It was watching them finally see Jake for who he really was. And from the looks of it, they were starting to see everything else, too. The first real crack in their armor came from an unexpected place. My childhood dentist's office, of all places. I was sitting in the waiting room flipping through a 6-month-old People magazine when my phone buzzed with a text from Rachel. You're not going to believe who just asked Mom for your new number. The answer made me choke on my complimentary coffee. Grandpa Joe. My father's father, the stoic World War II veteran who'd barely said 3 words to me since I turned 13, wanted to talk to me? That was more shocking than anything that had happened so far. I hadn't even realized he knew how to text. Before I could respond, another message came through. He's pissed. Like throwing the good china pissed. Says Dad crossed the line. The hygienist called my name before I could process this bombshell. As I sat in the chair getting my teeth cleaned, I realized with sudden clarity that the ripples of my confrontation were spreading further than I'd ever imagined. This wasn't just about my parents and Jake anymore. It was exposing decades of family dysfunction. That evening, I called Grandpa Joe. His gruff voice surprised me with its warmth. About damn time someone called them on their bullshit, he said without preamble. Your grandmother's been crying all week over what they did to you. Turns out my saintly grandmother had been quietly supplementing my college fund for years without telling my parents. When they drained the trust, they'd taken her money too. She didn't say nothing because she didn't want to cause trouble, Grandpa growled. But I'm too old to keep my mouth shut. The next morning, a certified letter arrived from a law firm. Not a cease and desist like I'd expected, but something far more satisfying. Grandpa Joe's attorneys demanding my parents repay every cent they'd taken from my grandmother within 30 days. I was still staring at the legal document when my doorbell rang. There stood my mother, looking like she hadn't slept in days, holding a familiar blue cookie tin, the kind she only used for special occasions. "Can we talk?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. I almost slammed the door. Then I noticed her hands were shaking. The cookies were my favorite, chocolate chip with walnuts, the one she used to make when I was sick as a child. The gesture was so transparently manipulative that it almost made me laugh. Almost. I let her in. The conversation that followed was equal parts heartbreaking and infuriating. The tears were real, I could tell that much. The excuses were the same tired refrains. "We never meant to hurt you. Jake needed the help more. You've always been so strong." But then came the new development, the real reason for her visit. "Your father's been suspended from the firm," she admitted, staring at her lap. "Someone sent the trust documents to his managing partner." I didn't bother pretending I hadn't done it. "Funny how consequences work," I said, pushing the cookie tin away. The dam broke then. Through hiccuping sobs, she confessed things I'd never expected to hear. That Jake had been in trouble for years, that they'd bailed him out of multiple disasters before mine, that they were drowning in secret debt. "It was never about loving him more," she whispered. "It was just easier. You never made waves." The admission hit me harder than any apology could have. All those years of being the good kid, the easy one, had just made me the path of least resistance when they needed something to sacrifice. I walked her to the door when the tears ran dry. She hesitated on the threshold. "Is there any way forward from this?" I looked at the woman who used to kiss my scraped knees and make my nightmares disappear. The betrayal still burned, but the anger had cooled into something harder and more durable. "Maybe," I said finally, "but not today." After she left, I sat at my kitchen table for a long time, staring at the untouched cookies. Then I picked up my phone and did something I hadn't done in years. I called my grandmother. We talked for hours. About the past, about the future, about the trust fund money that was apparently just the tip of the financial iceberg. When I finally hung up, I realized something surprising. I didn't feel victorious anymore. I just felt free. The war wasn't over. But for the first time in my life, I held all the power. And that was better than revenge. The final blow came from an unexpected place, Jake's own arrogance. I should have seen it coming. My brother had never been one for self-awareness. Even with his life crumbling around him, he still couldn't resist posting on Instagram like nothing was wrong. There he was, grinning in some overpriced restaurant, champagne flute in hand, hashtagging #hustle never stops while our parents fielded calls from debt collectors. That's when I knew he would never change. The notification popped up while I was having coffee with Rachel. "Oh my God," she muttered, shoving her phone across the table. "You have to see this." It was a GoFundMe. "Medical expenses for beloved father," the headline screamed, featuring a photo of Dad looking pale in a hospital gown. The description spun some sob story about unexpected illness and mounting bills. The campaign had already raised $3,000. My stomach turned. Dad had been perfectly healthy when Mom visited last week. Rachel's fingers flew across her screen. "Look at the organizer. Jake Reynolds." Of course. I should have been furious. Instead, I felt eerily calm. This was it. The final confirmation that my brother would rather scam strangers than take responsibility. That my parents would rather enable him than face the truth. I took a screenshot, then another, and another. "Are you going to report it?" Rachel asked. I sipped my coffee. Not yet. First, I let the donations climb. Watched as the total hit. 5,000. THEN 5,000, then 7,500. Jake even posted updates. "We're so touched by your generosity," with heart emojis and filtered selfies. Then, when the campaign hit $9,200, I struck. A single email to GoFundMe's fraud department. Attachments included Dad's recent golf outing photos, dated after the hospital picture. Jake's Venmo history showing luxury purchases. The trust fund documents proving a pattern of financial exploitation. The campaign vanished within hours. The fallout was immediate. Jake called me screaming, "What the hell is wrong with you? We needed that money." I hung up. Dad left a voicemail. "How could you humiliate us like this?" I deleted it. Mom sent a wall of text about family loyalty. I blocked her. Then came the message I'd been waiting for from Grandpa Joe. Just 3 words. "I'm proud of you." That night, I sat on my balcony with a bottle of wine Rachel had brought over. "So what now?" she asked. I watched the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and pink. For the first time in months, my mind was quiet. Now, I said, I live my life. And I did. The lawsuits came later. Grandpa made sure of that. The family fractures became permanent. Jake eventually moved across the country, still chasing get-rich-quick schemes. But me? I used the repaid trust fund money to go back to school. Got that degree they denied me. Built a life where no one could take what was mine ever again. Sometimes, when I pass a playground and hear a mother scold her daughter for being difficult, I want to whisper in that little girl's ear, "Stay difficult. It'll save you someday." And then I keep walking into a future brighter than anything they'd ever imagined for me.